every single day. Without realizing it, you make hundreds of judgments about other people. Some take minutes, others take only a few seconds. A face, a smile, a confident handshake, the way someone walks into a room, the tone of their voice. Sometimes, that's all it takes. Now imagine meeting someone for the very first time. You don't know where they've come from. You don't know what kind of life they've lived. You don't know their values, their intelligence, or their character. And yet, before they've even finished saying, "Hello," your brain has already begun writing a story. A story about whether they're trustworthy, competent, confident, successful, or someone you should be careful around. The remarkable part is that none of this feels like guessing. It feels like judgment, objective, logical, even accurate. But what if your brain is doing something else entirely? What if, without your permission, it's filling in the blanks long before the facts arrive? More than 100 years ago, a psychologist noticed this invisible pattern, a discovery that would forever change the way we understand first impressions. Today, psychologists know this mental shortcut influences far more than first meetings. It quietly shapes job interviews, classrooms, business decisions, relationships, even the people we choose to trust. But why does the human brain do this? Why are first impressions so powerful, even when they're wrong? And can learning about this hidden bias help us make fairer decisions? In this episode of Everyday Psychology, we'll uncover the science behind first impressions, explore the research that first revealed this hidden bias, and discover why understanding it might change the way you see other people and yourself. This is the halo effect. More than 100 years ago, long before smartphones, social media, or modern neuroscience, a psychologist began asking a simple question: why do people form opinions so quickly? In 1920, an American psychologist named Edward Lee Thorndike was studying how military officers evaluated the soldiers under their command. At first, the task seemed straightforward. Each officer was asked to rate their soldiers on several different qualities: leadership, intelligence, discipline, reliability, physical appearance. Each characteristic was supposed to be judged independently. But something unexpected kept happening. Whenever a soldier appeared physically impressive, strong, confident, or well-presented, the officers consistently rated that same soldier higher on completely unrelated traits. They believed the soldier was more intelligent, a better leader, more disciplined, even more trustworthy. The surprising part, there was often no evidence for these conclusions. One positive quality was quietly influencing every other judgment. Thorndike realized something remarkable. Our minds don't always evaluate people one characteristic at a time. Instead, we often create an overall impression first, then allow that impression to shape everything else we believe about them. He called this phenomenon the halo effect. More than a century has passed, but Thorndike's discovery continues to appear in schools, hospitals, courtrooms, businesses, politics, and in our everyday lives. Imagine meeting a new colleague. They arrive dressed professionally. They speak confidently. They smile almost instantly. Your brain begins making predictions. They seem intelligent. They'll probably be good at their job. They look trustworthy. But pause for a moment. How many of those conclusions came from evidence? And how many came from your first impression? The halo effect doesn't mean we're irrational. It means our brains are trying to make sense of the world as quickly as possible. And sometimes, speed comes at the cost of accuracy. But here's the real question. Why would the human brain evolve to think this way? Why would it choose speed over accuracy? To answer that, we need to look inside the human mind itself. If the halo effect can lead us to inaccurate judgments, why would our brains rely on it at all? The answer begins with a simple truth. The human brain is constantly trying to solve a problem. Every second, your senses are receiving an overwhelming amount of information. Faces, voices, movements, expressions, sounds, colors, thousands of tiny details, all at once. If your brain stopped to analyze every single piece of information, even crossing the street would become mentally exhausting. So instead, it looks for shortcuts. Psychologists call these shortcuts heuristics. Think of them as mental tools, not designed to be perfect, but designed to be fast. Imagine walking through a forest thousands of years ago. You hear movement in the bushes. Your brain has two choices: carefully investigate or assume danger and react immediately. From an evolutionary perspective, making a quick mistake was often safer than making a slow one. That same fast-thinking system still exists today, only now. Instead of reacting to predators, it's reacting to people. When someone smiles warmly, your brain may assume they're kind. When someone speaks confidently, it may assume they're knowledgeable. When someone dresses professionally, it may assume they're competent. None of these conclusions are guaranteed, yet your brain makes them almost instantly. Decades later. At Princeton University, psychologist and Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman described this fast, automatic, and effortless process as System 1 thinking. It works quietly in the background, helping us make countless decisions every day. Most of the time, it's incredibly useful. Without it, life would feel unbearably slow. But there's a trade-off, because speed sometimes comes at the expense of accuracy. And that's where the halo effect begins to influence our lives, not because we're careless, not because we're unintelligent, but because our brains are doing exactly what they evolved to do: create a story before all the facts are available. Now here's where it becomes even more fascinating. Researchers have discovered that these first impressions don't simply influence what we think. They can actually change how we remember people, how we interpret their behavior, and even the opportunities they receive. So just how powerful can one first impression become? The answer may surprise you. The halo effect doesn't stay inside psychology textbooks. It quietly follows us into everyday life. Imagine walking into a job interview. Before you answer the first question, someone has already formed an impression, not of your experience, not of your abilities, but of your appearance, your posture, your confidence, the way you entered the room. Or imagine meeting a new teacher, a doctor, a neighbor, a colleague, even before you know who they really are. Your brain has already started connecting the dots, sometimes correctly, sometimes not. Studies from top universities across North America and Europe have shown that first impression can quietly influence far more than we realize. In classrooms, for example, research consistently suggests that students who form a positive first impression of a teacher often rate that teachers more favorably throughout the course. A similar pattern appears in workplaces. Confident individuals may be perceived as more capable, even when objective performance is similar. And it does not stop there. Marketing uses the same principle. When we have a positive experience with one product, we're often more likely to trust everything else produced by the same company. One good experience creates a halo around the entire brand. Perhaps most surprisingly, the halo effect isn't limited to people at all. It shapes how we judge ideas, products, companies, even entire groups. But here's something important to remember. Having this bias doesn't make you unfair. It makes you human. Our brains evolved to make quick decisions. Most of the time, those shortcuts help us navigate a complicated world. But every shortcut has a blind spot. The real power doesn't come from eliminating the halo effect. After decades of research into human judgments, psychologists have reached an important conclusion: that we may never eliminate cognitive biases completely. But the real power comes from recognizing them. Because understanding human behavior does not begin with judging others. It begins by questioning our own assumptions. Every first impression is only one small chapter, never the whole book. If you enjoyed this episode of Everyday Psychology, consider subscribing for more research-based documentaries about the hidden patterns that shape human behavior. Until next time, stay curious.